Well, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. WeatherBrains 921, 9/11, September 11th, 2023. James here, and I will be playing a very small role on the show tonight because the bulk of the show will be originating from Kansas City, Missouri, and the National Weather Association annual meeting. Yes, indeed. We're going to have multiple camera angles, and most of our folks are there. I'm not. As you know, we've been short-staffed here, so I could not make it this year, which breaks my heart. The NWA is like a family reunion. It's the greatest. But anyway, for those that are new here, this is the pre-show, the magical, marvelous time of the program where we do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time, we say outrageous things. So, and if you're looking for the actual show content here, move the slider over about 10 minutes, opening up the show a little earlier than usual this week so we can get everybody in Kansas City online and get them set. And what's going to happen, I'm going to just give it to them, and I'm going to back out. I know Jen is not there. She's like me. She will be in her studio. I'm not so sure if Neil Jacobs is at the NWA. He might not be. But again, we're going to have the whole gang. I saw pretty much everybody else there today in photos, so there's evidence that they actually are there. And the way it works, they'll be bringing in some pretty cool guests. All right, we got Dr. James A. live from Kansas City.
Hello there. How are y'all doing?
Oh, yeah, sounding good.
I'm trying to get a second connection up. We'll see if we can make this work. That way I can drag some people over. I'm at the broadcasters dinner, and we are about 3 blocks from the conference hotel, and we're trying to throw this together, and we'll see if it works.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, absolutely we will.
That's what we do here in the show. We make it work.
A lot of people need to be asked a lot of embarrassing questions. We are going to put them on the spot tonight.
Well, the only thing we ask is that, number one, they're sober, and number two, they have their pants on. Those are the only 2 qualifications. So that's it.
This is the broadcaster dinner, right? You know that.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Hopefully we'll have a few people that are sober and have their pants on. So, no, I have been to many a broadcaster dinner over the years, and it can get very interesting toward the end of the session there. So,
I'm going to try this other connection real quick.
Yeah, I thought I'd open this thing up a little early so we could test everything. I'm trying to think of something obnoxious. Hello, my watch is telling me to try it again. But again, I know that Troy is out tonight, and Neil, I don't believe, is there. So if Neil comes online, Neil and Jen and I will be. We're going to be first time callers, and we're going to hang up and listen. So that's pretty much what we're going to do.
Oh, you may hang up, all right, but it won't be because of any exciting programming. Now, Bill, I think is at the RON, the Research and Operations Nexus meeting. So that's where the smart people are, because those are the non-broadcasty types.
Yes, I have been to that function many times over the years, and we have been able to get some pretty good guests there. And the way we do it, we just grab them. Hey, get over here, talk to us. There's no warning whatsoever. They just stick a camera in your face and a mic in your face, and you're live. And there's no editing on this show. Whatever happens. So
weird. It's hard journalism. That's what we're doing.
Exactly, journalism.
Let's see if I can.
That's you, James 2. You are now in.
I'm going to see if I can hear myself and talk to myself on this one. Hang on.
Okay. James 1, James 2, thing 1 and thing 2.
All right. I hear myself with a slight delay because I'm on an iPad, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's just like magic.
Just like an old school live shot here.
Yeah. So what's the restaurant?
The restaurant is BRBG. It looks like kind of a high-end gourmet burgery type brew pubby sort of operation. It smells terrific.
Hipster joint. It's a hipster joint.
We
Yeah.
are. I mean, hold on a second. I can show you easier. This is my vantage point.
Okay.
So it's we are downtown. We're just north of Union Station, and I see a whole flood of shady-looking people coming down the street. So that's probably broadcasters, right?
Oh yeah. They're totally shady. So there's a little echo coming down your audio, and it's probably because you have them both up at the same time.
You're right. Hold on. Let me mute. Okay, how does that sound if I mute this one?
Perfect.
That got oh yeah. I'll just ride the mute button. It's like I have my own mixer here. I'm pulling a Bill Murray. I've brought my own gear.
There you go. Doesn't get any better than this. So here comes Bill from the Ron. Oh,
Look at him.
See at the broadcast
brewery, James. You're going to actually be able to know that I'm at a pub crawl tonight because we're at the Weather Service Mixer.
Oh, you're at the mixer.
Yeah, we're at the mixer.
I thought you were at the Ron.
Well, we were.
Is the Ron a mixer?
The democracy was sort of, Kim and Rick wanted to come to the Weather Service Mixer, so we're here. So now
we're trying to determine what that cocktail is that Bill is working on down there. That red one.
Kim's. I'm not sure what that is. You'll have to ask her. I have an unfiltered wheat. So.
Oh. I hope you have an unfiltered mouth tonight. That would be great.
Ooh, show title: Unfiltered
Hey, did you
Mouth.
By the way, Dr. Kevin Claisel this morning may have been the first person in NWA history to use that word 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
In his own introduction.
Flying. Yeah, it was.
Oh boy, was it!
I want to know
dropping F-bombs.
Do you think it was Bob Stoops, James, or it couldn't have been?
Given the other choice that it might have been the other coach
Meyer?
involved. Oh.
So somebody called Kevin some bad names, James Spann.
Can you believe that?
You may have to come take somebody out.
Well, listen, I can do that.
Well, we're in a nice.
Goodness, this sounds like we've got any brawls break out, any fist fights. That's what I'd like to see.
He was just reading, like you when you read your mean tweets.
Oh yeah.
Tweets. He just didn't. He didn't bleep any of it.
Okay.
But
I heard a rumor.
Takeaways of the whole day today.
Heard a rumor that Kevin is retiring later this year. Is that true?
Oh, well,
yeah.
Wow.
Crowd is gathering out here, James. It's kind of scary.
Oh yeah. And I can only hope a brawl breaks out at one of these sites here, Jen. We can sit back in the comfort of our own little safe spaces and watch fists and, hair pulling and all that other good stuff.
It's the summer of love here. Everybody here's simpatico. Yeah, any one of them you want to use. There's a couple that are still in the packets there. James, you'd be proud of me. I was nervous to death about the setup, but
I'm excited about it. I'm excited about that PR20 you got there. That's a good mic.
That nice. I lost the pop filter though between here and the hotel, so I don't know what.
That's okay. We call that soda here.
James, I know what you're drinking, Kim. So.
Yeah, Kim.
James ate a lot. You're at an undisclosed location. I'm surprised they're even letting you show the background.
There are, as I was telling Alabama James earlier, there is a mob of very shady looking characters coming down the street as I look out the window.
Do they
here.
look like TV people?
Oh, kind of. Doesn't that go without saying?
Shady.
So I looked up this restaurant. It says
right till last night. That was pretty funny.
BRGR Kitchen Plus Bar, upscale burgers. Upscale burgers. This is a hipster joint. It's clearly a hipster joint here.
And the more alcohol we pour into these broadcasters, the worse the guesses of what the BRGR stands for. We're pretty sure the GR is not Gibson Ridge, but it might be. I'm not sure.
It sounds like it's maybe Mike is watching, James, and he'll make one of those 9 panels like they were showing in the broadcast yesterday. What a slick looking setup from I guess that was from the hotbed or the test.
Yeah. That was really cool. I've been trying to drag Mark Baden and Ryan Vaughn over here to this.
Yeah,
And
gotta have them.
the game is going to be embarrass the some other meteorologists.
And again, for those that are just joining us,
yeah.
I told James Adelot the only rule from them to be on the show here is the fact that they, number one, have to be sober, and number two, they have to have their pants on. Other than that, I don't care. I mean,
we covered one of those two rules.
So
guess which one.
And let me welcome our television viewers. Strap in. This is going to be a wild show. You've got three of us are sober and we are in our comfort zone. That's Neil and Jen and James here.
And three of us.
Everybody else is unhinged. Dr. Jacobs, it's going to be a rough ride here. So strap in. Turbulence ahead. You have been to these meetings before and you know what goes on here. So we've got James Adelot. He's at the broadcaster dinner. And then we've got Bill and Kim and Rick at the what is it again? Is that a weather service meet up there? What would? Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, let's get started here. And what we're going to do is just let you guys have it. Neil and Jen, y'all jump in whenever you want to. So here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And hang on. I don't think you're hearing the music.
Yeah, we didn't hear the music. No.
Yeah. Hang on. Let me get my.
I see the light, but I don't hear the music.
Yeah.
I'm gonna join as another entrant, but I'm gonna be muted and no camera, just so we can see.
Okay. I'm plugging in my iPad over here too, so I'll have to plug the microphone back into it, but no problem. It's starting to fill up over here.
Hang on. When I get a prompt from this thing. All right, let me press the run button and let me move this over here and let me be sure you guys can hear the music.
And by the way, this is probably a record that we've shown broadcasters outside their native market and they're behaving. So that's good.
I don't believe you. In the words of Ron Burgundy, I don't believe you.
The night is young.
So let me see if y'all can hear the foghorn.
Yes.
All right. So we are good now. So and I hear Jen, and Jen is going to be the voice of reason on this show. I could see. All right, here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains episode 9, number 921, the weekly show that is all about weather. This is for Monday, September 11th, 2023. And let me just warn you to strap in. All right, everybody here needs to strap in because this is going to be somewhat of a wild show because the bulk of the show will be originating in Kansas City at the National Weather Association annual meeting. But before we go there, let's bring in Dr. Neil Jacobs, who is, again, one of our voices of reason here. Neil, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm up in DC.
When was your last NWA annual meeting?
The one where I gave probably the scariest speech of my entire life.
Huntsville. Wow.
And got a standing ovation before you even opened.
No, that's why he's never been back. you should come back sometime and under different circumstances, and it will be a much more pleasing experience. I will.
I really want to. They were so supportive and understanding and giving me an opportunity to just, sort of say what I had to say. And that really meant a lot to me that I had that opportunity.
And understand for those that don't know that this was during the Trump thing and the national media. You had the New York Times. Everybody was in there. I mean, it was just an absolute zoo. And what Neil said was just excellent. And it was hard, but it was very good. And again, everybody listened and you got the standing ovation. And so understand that you are loved and appreciated. And so I think you should come back. Maybe next year, all of us can come. We've been short-staffed here. That's the reason I could not come this year. But it's like a family reunion. When you're old as I am, you just know most everybody, and it's a marvelous time. Now, Jen, you are also not at the NWA. You are with us in the regular space. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And you can play the foghorn on this. I've never been to an NWA conference.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I know, it's sad. So I need to fix that. I need to get that resolved quickly.
Goodness gracious, we really do need to fix that. And again, you can't beat just seeing people and spending time with them. And Zoom calls are okay, but it's a great time. And hope. And I will say we have added 2 people, and we're back to where we should be in staffing. So hopefully next year will be good. But we've got 2 separate crews out in Kansas City, and we've got Bill Murray and Rick and Kim together. And then we've got James Adelot over at the broadcaster session. And what we'll have to do is kind of work those mute buttons because it's going to be loud in both of these places. But let's start with Bill and Rick and Kim. So Bill, explain where you are and you take it from there. And then you can bring in James A.
James, I've received a special dispensation tonight to be at the National Weather Service mixer because this is where Rick and Kim are going to be coming. So anyway, we're here tonight with all the Weather Service folks. We'll have Ken in a little bit, and he'll come and talk to us. We're excited to have him. Of course, and a lot of feedback. We may have to mute a couple of mics on our side too. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Are y'all okay? Okay. Does that sound okay, James?
Yeah. Again, the object of the game is just to mute as many of the mics floating around as possible, so we can have one going at a time.
Good. Okay. Kim's doing some work here. We'll see.
Yeah, that's right.
And I am seeing Bill Murray's iPhone 13, and some of the audio is coming through that. You might want to mute that one.
That's good. Thank you, James. That's a good one. Where did that go? Lost it. It was here somewhere.
Pandalarium.
Live television, right?
Yeah.
Portions are previously recorded. That's why they sound so funny.
Oh yeah, JP, the guy that produces the audio podcast, his head will explode after he gets these audio files. But let's bring in James A. James, tell us where you are.
I kind of wish I knew. No, I'm at BRGR Burgers in Kansas City. We're just north of Union Station. I'm going to turn it so you can see the crowd of TV people. And unlike Anchorman, everybody is getting along. Nobody brought a trident. So this is going really well so far. They, as broadcast meteorologists are prone to do, seem to mostly be gathered around the bar right now. So I've drawn some curious looks, but no more than normal when I walk down the street.
All right. Well, Bill Murray, you guys start, and we'll just bounce back and forth, and y'all take it. This is y'all's show. We're just observers here. We'll jump in when we have to. So go, Bill. And Bill is all muted now. We can't hear a word they're saying out there.
Okay, now can you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear.
Woohoo! Well, I'm going to hand these earbuds to our first guest of the night, except there are no earbuds in it. So let's do another.
That looks like John Gordon. This is going to be good.
That's John Gordon.
Yes.
Buckle up, everybody.
Kind of a big deal.
John Gordon.
Strap in.
Right.
So plug him.
Anybody need coffee?
Henry.
Walk in a minute.
And we're going to get John in here first. Yeah, James, everything started on Saturday with the students, and I'm always constantly amazed at the students that you meet and, what they're about. And we met a young man, Rick Burkett Moore. Now, he's really a student. He's a 13-year-old who lives in St. Louis, and his mom, Jill, brought him over. This is going to be somebody John Gordon's going to be hiring in about 9 or 10 years from now. Can you hear okay, John? John, of course, is the MIC at the National Weather Service in Louisville. And John, you're a huge part of this show forever. We've always loved having you on. You're just a rock star.
Oh, I love being here. James, it's so good to see you. I would be on the NWA is vacant. Okay. I'm lost that you're not here. It's like peanut butter without jelly. All right. All right. I mean, I can't do anything unless you're here.
No. As long as you're there, it's all good. As long as you're there. Now, when the two of us are missing, we got a problem. But if you're there, we're good.
And WeatherBrains, been a big fan since day one. Love you guys. Love to watch your episodes. Rockstar Bill right here.
68,000 days ago, or whenever we started this journey. James, I think John he'll be the next Chuck Doswell when you two get together. So maybe next year we can have another unplugged show like we had in Norman at the National Weather Center. John, what's been going on with you these days?
We're keeping busy, James. If only you were there. We talked about cool season tornadoes in the Mid-South. I watched the December 21 outbreak, and Robin Roberts on GMA says, a rare tornado in Kentucky and Tennessee. This is outrageous. I don't know what's going on. We
unprecedented
had the Tuesday outbreak in 2008, and we go, a tornado in February in the Mid-South? This is, I mean, hell froze over. I don't understand any of this. So we got the facts, folks. We got the goods.
Yeah.
We got the goods. There are tornadoes in the Ohio and Tennessee Valley in November, December, January, February, folks. That's the truth.
November through May.
Yeah, exactly. And just about all the other months of the year too.
Months too. That's a fact. So yeah, there's some great talks, great sessions. Today they did a little different stuff. They did workshops. We had a probabilistic session, deaf and hard of hearing section, communicating. I had a great session on winter weather. We had a great session on how to effectively communicate rain, snow, winter weather stuff. They had prizes. You would have won them all, James.
Yeah. I'd win a pocket fisherman. That's what I'd win. And actually, I wouldn't mind getting a pocket fisherman. Those are awesome.
Those are awesome. Yeah. It's a great time. Really good time. Great conference.
So John, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about on the show, some of the broadcasters in your area on chat were, carping about, should this have a tornado warning? Talk about that situation. What can you share with us about that? Because you kind of came back and had a teaching moment there at the end.
Oh, we're trying really hard to QLCS tornadoes and how we can effectively communicate. And James, we've talked about this many times. In the beginning, the word weak tornado is really not a good thing to use. And I found some 2s and 3s, and some of the broadcasters have been on me. If we issued for every single circulation, no one would ever listen to us, ever. So we are really trying to practice the science and practicing the 3 ingredients method and using the nudgers and stuff that's developed and put out the best possible place. And I know we're going to miss some. I know we're going to. So I try to use it as a teaching moment to explain to them the process of the whole QLCS structure and how we can better communicate that. I mean, I found several 3s. The Bowling Green tornado of December 21 we had 2 3s on a QLCS hybrid. So it's not just these little spinnies. Most of them are, but some of them are pretty big.
Yeah, just amazing to have you here, John. We're going to try to circle a lot of folks through tonight. Thank you for being here. And we're going to line up Vivek to be with us next. Kim can introduce him because he wants to talk about QLCS tornadoes. But I see that our friend James Adelot has a very special guest that we got to see and have a cool picture with today.
Absolutely. It's always great to see Nate back in the house. I'm having to manually mute and unmute microphones here. So hopefully this sounds okay. Mr. Pipes is walking through, Morgan Palmer. So I'm trying to get Mark Baden on because he has a pyramid story that he wants to share. Say hi to Nate. It is noisy in here. Can y'all hear Nate okay?
We can't hear Nate at all over at least here.
Yeah, I just muted James too, James Adelot. So maybe that's the one you were coming from.
There. This is me now. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I'm getting thumbs up. Very good. It's good to see you.
Yes.
Yeah, two is the guest mic.
Okay, I see now. Okay, I got it. Yeah. Nate's looking good.
It was good to see Bill today too. I haven't seen him in way too long.
Yeah, hold on for this. Mark Baden, that's Milwaukee's chief back there. Hold. Hang on. Nate's going to hand the headphones to Mark because going to do a little quick interview with.
By the way, it's Laura's.
Oh, yes. And Laura Mock, who is the morning person on my weather team, it's her birthday today. So we wish her a happy birthday. Woo-hoo. And yeah. All right. Mark's joining us, and let me make sure he's on. Then there's Aubrey behind us.
Yeah.
So we got Aubrey. You turn on a light here, and people just come flooding over. Okay, this is Mark Baden. He is Milwaukee's chief. Mark, tell us about the pyramid.
Oh, no, no, no. This is what we're getting into, this story? There are way too many people that cannot hear this story. I still need to work, by the way, for a few more years.
Water slide? What about that? So what?
Just regular water slides. I don't got what you're talking about.
So what is the single most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you at an NWA conference or any conference?
Wow. I'm so glad to be on right now.
He's starstruck.
Do you truly want the story, or I'll tell the story. It's fine.
James has got his finger on the bleep button, so go ahead.
Yeah.
It's a long ways removed. This is Orlando AMS 2001. Am I really telling this story so everybody else can hear this? I thought everybody knew this story already. I'm embarrassed to say that I still have a job. I might not after I tell this story. Disney AMS. What a great idea. Absolutely terrible conference. I mean, nothing to go to. I did play a lot of great sand volleyball. Perhaps there might have been a cocktail or two served while we're playing volleyball. Next to the pool, they have, it's like a Mayan theme. So they have a pyramid, which is about 50, 60 feet tall. And a certain Kansas City meteorologist, who I will not name, who no longer is in Kansas City because he recently retired. We decided it's a good idea to climb said pyramid. There's nobody around. There's very few people in the pool. It's all people I know. But we climb the pyramid, get to the top, and this retired Kansas City meteorologist was clearly not retired at the time, it was a few years back, said we should moon everybody in the pool.
Oh, boy.
So, first of all, it's a miracle we get up this pyramid. No one should do this in their right mind, even in their drunk mind. So we decide to moon the pool, which is, we think we're so clever and so funny. So I walk down get down, which was like scaling, in my opinion, Mount Everest at the time. So we get down to the pool, jump back in, and there's only one person that I don't know in the pool. And I've only been in my market for a few years, and she happens to say, Mark Baden, I watch you every night. This was after I mooned the whole place. That is the pyramid story that lives on and on and on.
Well, at least you didn't snap a picture and put you on social media.
Thank God it didn't exist. Nobody had phones at that time. There's only one reason I still am here, doing what I do, doing what I love. There was not phones to take any of this.
I'm sure the statute of limitations has run out, so we're probably good.
I sure hope so.
There's only like 3 people listening to the show anyway, so you're probably safe.
Thank God.
Well, thank you for joining us. James, get Nate back. I got to ask him a question or two.
Oh, okay. Hang on
for a second to introduce a special guest for us. Kim, go ahead.
All right, we're going to pick up where the Gospel of John Gordon left us with QLCS tornadoes. And don't call them weak. Vivek here is with the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Norman, works with Rick. And he was just talking with us about how he'd love to come and add to some of that discussion. Vivek, welcome to the show. Any rants, really, that you would like to hold court on, you are very welcome to, and we're just glad to welcome you to the show.
Well, thanks, Kim. It's interesting. QLCS tornadoes, historically, I think we a lot of times say they're weak. And I think a lot of times they're just underrated. For example, we had the El Reno tornado that hit, in 2019. I think it was 75 yards wide. And if it hit a mile or two to the south, it would have probably been an EF0 or EF unknown. But I think what happens, a lot of these QLCS tornadoes, they just are underrated because they don't hit the right damage indicator. So I think as a weather community, we need to be cautious about messaging these are weak tornadoes, because I think a lot of them are actually a lot stronger than we realize. And it's a disservice, because if people are saying a mobile home and we're saying it's a weak and it spins up to an EF2, and EF2 could completely wipe out a mobile home. So I think it's okay to say they're transient, quick spin ups, but to call them weak, I think is risky because of that potential.
And you were talking with us too a little bit about this distinction between how we tend to message supercell born tornadoes and QLCSs, and that you think that there could actually be a really similar severity potential with some of, if you know it's not a big catastrophic tornado, it could actually be the case that supercells don't necessarily mean strong. QLCS can be strong. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so with supercells, a lot of times we actually kind of see this visually, the spin up essentially, and a lot of times they barely touch down. I've done a lot of storm chasing before I was a Weather Service employee, and a lot of times you get a little thing down there and it spins back down. It produces a brief EF0 tornado. So a lot of times supercells can actually be weak as well, and not just QLCS. So I think we just have to separate and not try to distinct, supercells are strong and QLCS are weak. I think we just have to say all tornadoes could potentially be significant and cause damage. If it hits your house, it doesn't matter if it's an EF0 or an EF1, that's still, devastating to your house. So I think we need to be cautious about that. And I know a lot of people also feel like QLCS tornadoes are increasing. When I gave a presentation several years ago, when QLCS was kind of the new term back around 2010, Greg Forbes actually came up to me afterwards and said his advisor, Dr. Ted Fujita, had actually hypothesized a lot of non-derecho type winds and straight lines were probably little vortices that were embedded in the line, but because they're moving so fast, the right side are enhanced. So you may see 100 miles an hour on the right side, and you may see, close to 0 on the left side because of the storm motion. So I think a lot of these QLCS vortices have always existed, but now with super resolution, dual pole, we see with TDSs, we see a lot more little subtle vortices from debris signatures. I think we're just seeing a lot more of these little QLCS vortices, super resolution dual pole mesosails, getting faster resolution scans. And there's a lot more people out there to capture things as well. So just my thoughts on QLCS tornadoes.
Well, and Rick just came back here, so let's pretend he doesn't exist. We have to know, what's it like to work with this guy? What are some of your best Rick stories?
Well,
we're out of time.
I mean, I got to say that Rick, he puts some insane hours sometimes. He comes into work every day around 6 o'clock in the morning, and he sometimes, when there's severe weather, he doesn't leave sometimes till 10 or 11 o'clock. So I got to say, Rick put some crazy hours. And, we went to a workshop in Durant. We had a tornado outbreak in February. And Rick and I went down to the workshop, and Rick actually went back and did surveys and then came back the next day. He came back the same day, actually. So he had a really long day. So I got to say, if there's one thing that Rick likes to do, is he likes to work and likes to work a lot of hours. And the hardest thing for me to say no to is to Rick. He always asks me to do stuff. So a lot of times I say yes. Actually, I probably say yes too much, but so
you'll learn.
I'll learn. But no, it's awesome working with Rick. We have a great office at Norman, and there's a lot of great people there. So
absolutely.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much, Vivek.
Yeah, and we'll have you on, Vivek, for a whole show here where we can talk a long time. But thank you for joining us tonight.
Interesting set of topics.
Good. Well, we will have you here. I know Nate wants to get back to the party over there at the broadcasters dinner, but I wanted to talk to him for a second, James, because Nate yesterday did a fabulous presentation about how much time is lost, between, the time a radar image is shot through all the different stages until the time it gets to a streaming viewer. Nate, talk about that for just a minute.
Right. So you have different levels of delay that get introduced into the process. And those of you who were around during the Doppler wars of the 90s, when TV stations were trying to one up each other with the radar and comparing themselves to NextRad, where it's, it's live radar, it's the 6-minute advantage or what have you. That's largely been erased in the sense that if you've got high and severe weather, the Weather Service can run the radar in a certain volume coverage pattern that can get you a lowest level sweep every 90 seconds, sometimes even a little more frequently than that. So we've cut into that a little bit on the front end. On the back end, though, what's changed is how we get the signal of us on television talking about the radar data to our viewers. Used to be that analog TV was instantaneous. You could go out on a live shot and use your off-air signal as a monitor to see what you were talking about, to know what the graphics were. But now digital TV has a little bit of delay because it has to encode and decode the signal. You add in cable or satellite, you've got to encode and decode again. And if you're looking at some of the streaming services, your OTT, your Peacock, Roku, Paramount Plus, any of the Hulu, any of the places where you're getting live television signals, those also have a delay to them. And in some cases, you add all of that up, and you can wind up in a situation where the radar can paint an image on your screen at the TV station. There might be some delay on that before it updates again. And then you're adding the distribution delay on the back end. That radar image could be almost 6 to 6.5 minutes old by the time it gets to the viewer on some of these streaming services. So the lesson for us as broadcasters is we have to, number one, we have to know that that delay is there. And we have to recognize that the storm that we're looking on the radar screen, by definition, that's already in the past. It's already happened. And we have to start acknowledging that that storm is a little bit farther down the road than it looks like it is on our radar screen. And we have to account for that as we're doing storm tracks and everything else, so that we're giving people, the most vulnerable people in a situation like that aren't the ones underneath the storm. They're the ones immediately out front of it. The folks farther down the road have more time to think about it. But anybody who's in that 1 to 2 to 3 mile spot right ahead of the storm, they're at most risk. And if we're not accounting for that and accounting for those delays as we do storm tracks and analyze the storm, we're doing a disservice to those viewers by doing that. The other thing that it was part of that was recognizing, I did an analysis of severe weather coverage in multiple markets from the Northeast to the Southeast, all the way to the Southern Plains. Every station in the market, same event, took the first 5 minutes of a tornado warning. Only 22% of that coverage was forward focused. The other almost 80% was looking at a radar image that by definition was already old. So we as broadcasters need to spend more time looking ahead, storm tracks, street level, looking down where the storm is going and where it will be, and spend less time where it already is, or truly where it has been. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't do analysis. You have to do a little bit of analysis, but you got to do that quickly. You got to make sure you know what it is that you're looking for, get the analysis done, and then get back to forecasting. Because the people who are already in the red blob on the radar, they already know what's there because they're in it. We can help the folks down the road 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 miles down the road. That's where we add value in the value chain, by focusing on those people, helping them get to safety, helping them make the right decision to protect themselves, so that we get to talk to them again the next time.
And Nate, I think the greatest takeaway from me there was more storm tracks. It's like more cowbell. We need more storm tracks.
I had a news director once say that we could never over Doppler. And by that, he meant storm tracks. Show me where the storm is. Show me where more importantly, where it's going. Tell me all the little towns. Tell me where it's going to be. Show me the streets that it's going to hit next. Don't worry about street level underneath it. Those people already know. You got to look down the road for that. And that couples, interestingly enough, with a paper, it was a study that was done almost 20 years ago, I think, by one of the meteorologists in Rick's office. talking about how the mesocyclone in a storm is tilted. And if the radar beam is hitting that mesocyclone higher up, the effect of that tilt also contributes to a positioning error once you translate that down to the ground. In other words, the storm may not be exactly, the couplet may not be exactly where it looks like on radar because of the effect of that tilt. All good reason to focus farther down the track of the storm and to pay more attention to those folks. They're the ones that need it. They're the ones that we can help. And that's the best place that we can add value into the process.
Dr. Kim, 6.5 minutes is a long time when you're talking about a tornado that's going 55, 60 miles an hour. And Kim, you've got our next guest here. Everybody, he needs no introduction, but Kim or Rick, you introduce our next guest, please.
Sure thing. Well, this is good friend of the show and to all of us, Greg Carbon from the Weather Prediction Center, the Operations Branch Chief. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Kim. Rick, thanks for grabbing me out of the busy place of the Boulevard Brewery here in Kansas City. James, good to see you.
You're looking good, Greg. I keep hearing rumors that you're thinking of retiring. Is that true?
Yeah, I've got my time in as of 2024. My wife is dealing with some elderly parents. We were planning on going up to Vermont to retire at some point, and that point may come in 2024. So I might be able to get the solar eclipse trip in retirement mode. For those of you who know when that occurs, you'll know what month that is. And then after that, who knows? Maybe roam the plains for a while and then hike the long trail and eventually end up in Vermont. That's the plan. And it's intimidating. You
got to keep doing meteorological memories. That can never go away.
So this last year has been bonkers and the year isn't even over yet. So I don't know how you do that anymore. It's a 2-volume set for every year. We had some young guys do the map briefing this morning. And I met with them afterward. I told them they did a great job. They really did. And I told them their services are needed now more than ever. That, in almost 40 years of doing weather and forecasting, I have never seen the need for accurate weather information more relevant than it is today. It's crazy. Yeah. So I think they took that to heart. And I gave them my card and I said, this expires in 8 months.
So, Greg, one of the things we were so excited to get you for at this meeting before we do lose you to retirement, I can't believe that will ever actually happen. So I'm just in denial, but I'm really, really glad that we got to have you for a workshop yesterday.
Yeah.
And Greg came with a cohort of folks from the Hurricane Center and the Storm Prediction Center. And we really just held kind of like an IWT, but for the national centers with broadcasters to talk about here's the stuff that we're trying to do with the centers. And here's what the social scientists are telling us, we're learning about what we need to do. But actually a lot of things that people get in the public that, are the messages you ultimately want to send are shared through broadcasters in real events. So we have to involve them in these conversations. And what was your thought on how all of that went?
So one thing that comes to mind right now is that we're really lucky to have you. And the national centers have been leading the way, and we're kind of lucky in that sense that we can reach out to social science and ask them questions about, are we doing this the right way? Where can we make it better? And you saw that yesterday. Each Hurricane Center, Storm Prediction Center, WPC have been working with social scientists to develop the next generation of impact-based warning decision-making products. But you need someone to lead all of those efforts. I don't envy that person, but you signed on, and yesterday was the first opportunity for you to help lead that, and I thought it went really well. I thought that we got a lot of positive feedback. I think we would be in a much harder position had we not already been engaging social science in these efforts. I tried to make the point that winter weather impact forecasting is probably more challenging than tropical and severe weather. there are many dimensions to winter that, aren't necessarily necessary in severe weather. And a simple example of that is, a tornado is a tornado, whether it's, Birmingham, Alabama, or Boston, Massachusetts. It's a freaking tornado, and it's going to have some impacts. On the other hand, a 3-inch snowstorm is going to be a huge difference in terms of response, recovery between those two locations. And that's just a very simple example of how we are challenged by trying to convey impacts with respect to winter. The Weather Prediction Center has been trying to lead the way with the Winter Storm Severity Index, and I think it's been relatively well received by broadcast media, and the meteorologists understand what we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, I've said all along, and I'm kind of an old fogey, just tell me how much snow is going to fall. I'll tell you what the impact is. You tell me how much snow. But again, it depends on where you are, how familiar you are with that particular threat, and whether you have a shovel.
Yep. And a really interesting feature of your conversation, all the conversations, was all the products you're putting out are probabilistic. And NCEP, the centers really lead the way in so much of that, in part because of the lead time that they have. So you all have always grappled with things that are a little bit farther ahead, talk about big spaces of possibility. There's a really enormous array of different ways you can slice that and choose to communicate about it. WPC has a lot of slices. You guys had the largest volume when we did an analysis of who has the most probabilistic products. It was you guys. And a feature of the conversation with broadcasters was, are you comfortable communicating probabilities with your audiences? Ultimately, that's where people are going to get a lot of this information. So we have to partner with them to make sure that they understand all of this, that they can use it. What did you see in that conversation with them about using everything you guys are putting forward?
Well, so, Bill and James, we've been doing this for a while. And I feel that the broadcast meteorology community has been part of our team for decades, right? I mean, when I was at SPC, I'd come to the NWA, and I would come because of the Sunday broadcast session. So this was nothing new yesterday. It's like coming back to familiar territory. We can't do it without the ability to communicate risk using the best tools we have available to us, but also that we can provide some of that information, but it's a two-way street. The broadcasters can provide the communication effort. We can provide some of the information with regard to data, details, analysis, probability. I got the sense yesterday, the broadcasters, and often they're using it. So tell us something new. Tell us something we don't know.
Yep.
And I was kind of the same way. What can I tell the broadcasters that they don't already know? But what we want to hear is, what can we do better? How can we provide this information in a format? I mean, I've learned about the format, KML being really the most recognized format for broadcasters. I thought there might be other options. It's KML all the way because of the tools that they use to go on the air. So that kind of information is crucial. It's down in the details, right? But I'm going to go back, and we've already talked about this. How do we get some quick wins to show that we listened, that we heard what you need, and we're going to try to work toward developing those tools in a way that you can readily utilize the information. But there's always going to be a need to continue to explain that. I think the WSSI is pretty complicated. At the end of the day, again, you said impacts, moderate impacts, but show me how much snow is going to fall, or show me how much ice will occur. How do we do that? It's multi-layered. It's challenging. I've always been up for a challenge, especially with respect to visualization, especially with respect to telling the story, getting the message out, and we're going to continue to work on that. And I'll probably work on that beyond my expiration date.
That makes us so happy. Thank you. The things that you've done are invaluable.
Thank you very much. Did a great job. Bill, all good. Jim, good to see you.
See you, Greg.
Yeah, I want to make sure that Jen and Dr. Neal have a chance to ask any questions they might have, because we don't have the benefit of the chat here. So we are kind of flying a little blind. But we're going to toss it back over to the broadcasters dinner, and James A. has the man, the myth, and the legend all rolled up in one.
I do. We've got none other than Chief Meteorologist Brian Busby here, and Buzz, what do you got? I'm trying to get a light on us because we're backlit badly.
Yes, we are, but that's okay. Brad, thank you.
Is it as terrifying to have this in your home market as I think it would be?
I'm telling people that this meeting has been like, I feel like the father of the bride to make sure everybody's happy. Do we need more fresca here? Where's the centerpiece? Yeah, there's so many details, and the attendance has come up since COVID, which is good. So we have hundreds of people coming in to see your city, and of course we want it to glow and look great. And I think ESPN helped us a lot with the NFL draft to put this city in stellar form. And we just want to make sure that the streets are clean and the barbecue is there and the beer is flowing. Because, barbecues. Yeah. What's that? Love their beer.
So I was going to ask you a follow-up question on barbecue. I got Panovich on the other side of the table. He says Carolina barbecue's better.
Right.
We got a couple of these Texans that somehow got in here, and they say their barbecue is better. What do you think?
What do I think? Delusional, absolutely delusional. No palate whatsoever. That's why this light's going to go out, because Panovich is going to ketchup base. There you go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the question. Mustard. Well, have you had the mayonnaise based barbecue sauce?
I can't say I have. Is it an acquired taste? I mean, is it that good?
That's an Alabama James thing, man. That Alabama barbecue sauce.
Oh, the man himself. Oh, then
yeah.
Mr. Span, you must tell me about this. How'd you come up with it?
Look, I've learned over the years, do not get involved in a barbecue argument. Nothing good will come out of this, okay? Let's just say it's all good. They're all winners, okay?
But beans and chili, yes or no?
Beans and chili? Yeah, sure. Yes.
I agree. Yeah. For a minute there, I thought he was giving everybody a trophy or just like a participation. Everybody's good with barbecue, yeah.
No, they're not.
There's some differences. It just depends on acquired taste. That's all I'll say.
You have answered exceptionally diplomatically. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, now, some burn ends at Jack Stacks you can't hardly beat, Brian Busby.
There you go.
That was a feast last night.
Hey, it was. Now, we are delaying his nutritional program. He's getting kind of surly over here watching people walk by with plates of food. So y'all have any follow-up questions for him?
I just want to say hi because Brian and I share the airwaves on KMBZ. So I just wanted to say hi to my friend. So good to see you.
How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you.
Likewise. It's been a while since we've had a chance to talk.
I know it. I emailed you a couple of weeks ago because you were using my words on your TV broadcast. And we got Nary.
Yes.
Nary a raindrop in the forecast. So that led to a challenge. So that was awesome.
Yes. What they've done is they've asked me to work a weather word into. And so I've done it so far. Yeah. And yeah, nary was easy. But because you could say nary a cloud, nary a chance of rain. So that was not too bad.
That's right.
Last week they wanted me to get dilly, as in the old commercial in.
Oh, no.
And I had it in my mind how to do it because I said that talking about hurricanes are in the Atlantic and the East Pacific. Out west, they're called typhoons. In the Indian Ocean, they're called cyclones. Near Australia, they're called willy willies, which rhymes with silly. And I forgot to say dilly. I would have had it.
That's awesome. Good to see you, my friend.
Good seeing you as well. We'll talk again. We'll coordinate.
You bet.
Yeah, and I want to point out Brian and his morning meteorologist did a fascinating look, kind of a introspection, a dissection of their coverage, keeping in mind vulnerable communities today. And this was the deaf and hard of hearing community, which is 15% of this country. And so it was definitely raised awareness for all of us. It's just stuff we can do. And so much stuff for that vulnerable population also translates to many other vulnerable populations too. So I want to thank you for that.
My pleasure. And it was so good to pick up on those nuggets. Like, why do we have the watch on after we're in the warnings? Why do we have the correlation coefficient where we still see the blue, and on the banner it says most likely, but that was not where the debris signature really was. I mean, things like that we don't think about, that other people are giving, at least to put that little nugget in our head to say, we should probably rethink how we do that. And also the words, talking about away and toward, even talking about winds. And somebody said that it sounds like when you have winds moving toward, that the storm's heading toward you, but we're talking about the circulation. So it's amazing how, when you wordsmith it, and how important it is to wordsmith, and how we need to start not only double checking spelling, but triple checking our thought as to what word we're going to add. So it's very eye-opening, and I loved it. And I was glad to be the guinea pig. And Nick Bender did a great job. A nocturnal QL that was on the line, caused 60-mile-an-hour winds, EF0. But still, at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, people needed to know. And there were some deficiencies, and that's what we're trying to improve on. Hey.
All
Awesome.
right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, James. We're going to
You're welcome.
back here as we go back and forth. And I think this is awesome. Our next guest here, I went and snagged Jeff Evans. Jeff is the MIC of the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Houston. And Jeff, thanks for being here.
No, thanks, Rex. Thanks for having me back. Been a while.
You were a guest before.
Yes.
Okay. Well, a lot has happened probably since you were a guest. So, I mean, Houston's been in the crosshairs of a lot of big events lately, and talk a little bit about some of those events. And you're here at the conference kind of talking about
storm surge.
Yeah.
So I'm actually had a showcase today talking about some of the lessons that we learned after Ian last year for Fort Myers Beach, where we unfortunately had 36 people drown in Lee County. And we found out when we were doing the survey down there that a lot of those drowned in or near their vehicles. So a lot of, as we know, we want people to leave. We issue these evacuation orders, but there's a certain percentage that aren't going to leave. It's statistical, and we see it every storm. So at the last minute, when the water is increasing, apparently these people panicked and tried to drive off the island. The last thing they heard from us was, you have to leave. So the question is, should we do something else? Is there another tier, last resort tsunami messaging? If you stayed, it's too late to leave. And because when we were doing the surveys, I was looking around at, especially at Fort Myers Beach, all the high rises, all the condos still standing. These people could have driven to any one of these structures if they could have gotten there, got access into it, which is there's still some ifs, but they could have perhaps just gotten to a stairwell and at least survived, because it was the water that killed them. So, so that's what my presentation was, and I'll be presenting again at AMS and just starting that conversation. The Tampa office now has been putting out some preseason messaging about some last resort. If you decide to stay, you put yourself in danger of drowning, but at some point it gets to be too late to leave, and you have to just get up. So that's what I'll be presenting. Was presenting today. So.
And that's a challenge, and Kim can talk about this, because the tendency is for people to just wait until they see it happening.
Correct.
And in that case, there was very viable options they could have had to take shelter, and they just didn't think about it. And it's interesting, the messaging you talked about, where the last thing they had heard from us was to leave.
Right.
Kind of reminds me of the other problem that we've faced in with Harvey and other storms, the conflicting messages between tornado warning safety and flood safety.
Right.
And you've done a lot. You've done some studying
Yes,
about that,
especially
too.
with Harvey, when we had to make a decision, like we're issuing tornado warnings when there's a flash flood emergency. I remember it said, what do we want people to do?
Right. Yeah.
And the message was, well, you have to assess what's the more dangerous risk for you. But most people have problems doing that. So that's our job. But it's a difficult task. And so we're working with the training center and doing some training for the agency on that cross messaging.
Very important.
Yeah, definitely.
If I'd like to ask you, are any emergency managers considering, getting into high rises as shelters of last resort and opening them in that regard?
So we haven't gotten there yet. So we're trying to talk internally as an agency. We have traditionally not done this because we don't want to take away from the core message that you need to leave. If you're in an evacuation order, the number one thing is you need to leave. So but we know that's not going to be 100%, anywhere close to 100%, unfortunately. So that's the next thing. I've already started having conversations because I'm co-located with Galveston County. And so for us, Galveston's another barrier island, which could have a similar threat. I let them know that at some point right before landfall, we would probably be sending that kind of messaging out. So we have started those conversations. They seemed receptive. They seem to be understanding of it.
Yeah, because I've always heard that shelter of last resort in a high-rise situation. But who's going to be the one who does that? And when do you convert? So I'm glad you're having these conversations.
And the terminologies, we have to be careful because when we don't want to call them shelters, because when EMs hear shelters, there's all these requirements. So this is not a shelter. This is just a place for people to go to. The other thing that when I talk to survivors is that they didn't realize how fast water rises in a surge. It's not high tide. It goes from your ankles to your waist to your chest in 20 minutes. And it's moving. It's like a washing machine. So it's you can't stand up. So that's where that tsunami wording is coming in. Like maybe we need to start messaging, this is going to be a tsunami. If you're there, you've got to get up and get out of the water.
Yeah, that's so important because when it comes to water, what comes to mind naturally is what you experience day to day of it. And what people who are coastal, that's right. What they'll think of. Mm-hmm. So that tsunami messaging is a really great way to go. Mm-hmm. To help them understand the nature of the event and to connect it with their decision making. What you were talking about, the shelter of last resort, reminds me of in Alabama, the conversations that have been had for tornadoes, recognizing that such a large share of the population lives in vulnerable housing and they don't have official shelters, but people could go to these places of last resort and it's something that would be nearby and just benefit them so much. And what Alabama has pursued is the Safer Spaces law that frees those people of legal liability. If you shelter people, you're being a good Samaritan. It's essentially a good Samaritan law. It could be really interesting to see something like that thought of in these situations as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, that's where we hope this conversation goes. And this is going to be a different message for mainland area. A mainland strike, maybe they need to just get inland 3 blocks. But it's these barrier islands, like Fort Myers Beach was inundated 6 to 8 feet above ground, the entire island. There was no safe place on the entire island. So people were having to drive to the causeway and they didn't make it.
Yep.
Yeah, Jeff, I look at these home listings on Zillow on Sanibel, and the loss of the trees is just phenomenal because that was such a tree-lined, beautiful place. But that storm chaser that put that video, that camera right at Fort Myers Beach did such a service to show what surge can do. And of course, our friend, Mark Sudduth has done that. His video from Mexico Beach with, in Hurricane Michael is some of the most shocking video that you'll ever see. We're going to get your boss in the hot seat here in just a second, Jeff. So maybe we'll let you, go back out and enjoy the fun here tonight. Thank you for joining us. Always good to see you. Thanks. And we'll have to have you back on the show for a full show soon. James A's got a good friend of the podcast over there. We'll toss it to you before we bring in one of our stars for tonight's show.
Yeah, you never know who you're going to run into at these broadcast dinners. And isn't Jeff doing some great work too? This is Ryan Vaughn from KAIT TV and one of the kings at severe weather coverage on Paducah night. Just dominated, incredibly relevant and calm communication on what was just where that whole nightmare started with that supercell. But Ryan is an NWA veteran too. And because he is an NWA veteran, I wanted to ask him a question about how these conferences have gotten better or worse. So how many have you been to?
Wow, you got me on the spot now. I don't know, 10, 11, 12? Probably 10 to 12. I've been in this 20 years, so I'd say 10 or 12.
What's the best part about coming to these conferences?
It's good to see. Social media has changed things to where we can talk to each other through Twitter and things like that. But you sit down, you face to face, have dinner together, and talk about the business. It just seems to click a little better. This year has been so spectacular because we've done so much hands-on stuff. We're doing the things where you scan the QR code and we're asking questions and we're polling the entire room. we're asking a lot of questions on what would you do in this situation. We feed off of each other and we learn from each other. And that's the best part of NWA for me. And this year also, we have had a really good collaboration of getting government and the private sector together and really getting on the same page, probably better than I've ever seen at NWA.
That's fantastic. And don't leave out academia in that too, as I say in grad school. But did you bring all your clothes this year? I know you have a problem with that.
I do. I think I have. I think I hold the record for NWA for getting my luggage lost, and so I think people are thrown off when I'm wearing the same clothes or not wearing the same clothes every day like I have in some of the conferences in the past. So I got my luggage this year because I drove myself.
So your DMA has a particularly embarrassing town name to say. Does it make you crack up when you say that during tornado coverage?
Not anymore, except if you say the road that connects Wiener and Harrisburg, Arkansas.
All right. Ryan, thank you very much. The great Ryan Vaughn, and he's doing some good work. He's about to go get me a little bit of food, that's left over there that the group has not gotten yet. So far, this is a pretty happening place. The bar is actually cleared out a little bit, which means there was food put out, free food, I guess. But Bill, you have the grand poobah of all of this over there,
and
right?
The deputy grand poobah too.
Wow.
We're excited tonight. Of course, it's always great anytime we get to talk to Ken. And so we were excited to be here tonight. Thank you for the dispensation to let me come tonight, Ken, because I'm obviously wouldn't be coming to the Weather Service Mixer without your permission, and I appreciate that. But
wait a minute, now you're a family here. We go way back.
We do, Ken, and we claim you as our proud son there in Birmingham. But tonight, Michelle Manelli, the acting deputy director of the National Weather Service, is with us as well. It's great to have you on the show, Michelle.
Is it on?
There we
It is
go.
on. When was I here the last time?
Like a year.
About a year ago.
Yeah.
About a year ago.
That's exciting. So lots of great things happening at the Weather Service. Of course, Director Ken Graham is here with us tonight. And Ken, we knew we had to ask you about your 10 principles, and they said that might be the rest of the show. But at risk of that happening, we'll take that risk.
Talk. He can talk.
What?
He likes to talk.
I had never noticed.
He loves to tell stories. His stories are the best.
Look, we are narrowing things down to really focus and get things done. And when you think about it, a 3-year project, NWS chat, we did in 10 months. Out. Woo woo. Off the list. We got that done. And then we have something else that's coming off the list too, by the way. We created a change management unit. We are rewriting. Take this in. Everybody needs to hold on tight. Hold on tight with me. We are rewriting our entire governance process in the National Weather to be more nimble, flexible, and mobile. We're really rewriting everything to be more innovative and actually think more like a startup than a government agency. So we're really trying to really break down those barriers. You can't build bureaucracy around your success. You can never grow. So we're busting that up and going forward. We are literally on the cusp of transforming the National Weather Service, like doing everything that we could do in an office anywhere. AWIPS in the cloud, being at emergency operations centers, being on the front lines anywhere, and building the flexibilities for our employees. The next generation wants flexibilities. They want to be able to balance home and work, and we're going to build those flexibilities, and we're going to be able to recruit great people, and we're going to be able to retain them.
Ken, you blew past something that's just a little bit important, the NWS chat implementation, the 2.0 moving to Slack. That's a huge thing. Our partners, I mean, that's been something we've been waiting for a long time. But it would not have, it still wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. I mean, you kind of pushed to speed that process up, right?
But there was a lot going on. I mean, Michelle was really deeply involved with that. I mean, it was on the road. I think all I did was pour a little fuel on the fire and say, look, we got to get this done. And it wasn't the first thing that we did. It was the radar light. Remember, it took like 2-3 minutes to get a loop on the radar. That was another one. We accomplished that in a month. So it's about not doing, look, here's the deal. There's so much passion in the Weather Service. Most of our employees wanted to do this since they were 5, 6, 7 years old. Somebody said even earlier than that, 3. One person said the womb. I don't Not kidding. No. That's actually happened in a talk. I don't believe it. There's no way that was that early. James, are you there? There's no way
Yes.
somebody wanted to do this before birth. I don't.
Yeah.
JB, maybe.
Yeah,
JB.
maybe.
Right, there's
Yeah.
no way. So, but what happens is there's so much passion that we could do anything, but we try to do everything. We're burning ourselves out, and it has to stop. So we have to focus on transforming. We have to focus on the mission and mission support. Everything else, I don't know. You got to think about it a little bit. We can't burn out.
And we don't have to be perfect,
Exactly. And
right? Yes.
I joke about
Doesn't
this.
have to be perfect.
You got to get little wins along the way. Sometimes we have a tendency, a little risk averse to make sure everything is so perfect. And I don't know if you can advertise things, but I'll say Lamborghini. Am I allowed to say things like that? Look, they're a sponsor, Lamborghini. Get your Lamborghini near you. All weather folks need a Lamborghini. Thank you very much. So not everything has to be a Lamborghini. You can get some Civics and some Corollas out the door,
Not that
right?
there's anything wrong with those cars.
No,
There's
we-
nothing wrong with them.
We have one, but you have to be able to get the short wins, the quick wins to be able to get them out the door.
Yeah. And, someone said to me, he said, Bill, I don't think that, that NWS chat 2.0 was quite ready for prime time. And I shut that conversation down immediately. I said, because that's the difference in this administration.
Yeah.
And, what would have happened before? It would have been a 5-year rollout. We would have forgotten what we were coming to and what we were trying to do. But, I said, in this world now, Ken gets innovate and fail fast and, fix it and move on. And we appreciate and applaud you both for that.
We are actually having discussions. Keep it between us. We're having discussions.
And it's
Exactly.
very
All 5 lists. Oh, come on. No,
to get recorded or
Exactly.
anything and posted for all.
think about what we're doing here. We're thinking about rewarding innovation, trying things. If it doesn't succeed, I can't wait to give the first award for something that doesn't work. A government agency doing that, what a concept. So Michelle and I are having conversations as we rewrite our governance and having an innovation council where we can innovate as an entire agency instead of separate, where you get 20 different things. It's inefficient and nothing works well. We're actually creating an innovation council that we can innovate as one weather service. I'm telling you, we're serious about this. We're going to transform in the next 10 years.
And making it okay in our culture. If some project you're trying to work, if it deploys and it doesn't work, we roll out, but we haven't invested years and years into that solution.
You want to say something to that?
I have a lot to say. So
Show how long is it?
However long he wants to talk.
I
Frankly.
get
We
really,
get till tomorrow.
really excited about this because if you think about it, listen, there's exciting things going on. We're serious. We're hiring a meteorologist to be in the state EOC Emergency Operations Center in California. We're doing the same thing in Texas. I did a news conference. We're doing the same thing in Virginia, New York City, and we've placed the first meteorologist from the Weather Service in the White House. We're doing it. Okay. This is happening. There's dates, tsunami warning centers. We're unifying them into one. I can't announce it yet.
Weather.gov 2.0,
We're doing
a
a
minimal viable product.
May
It's-
24.
Yeah, it's not going to be everything, and that's okay.
Yeah. So we got dates on this stuff that our incident meteorologists are getting AWIPS in the cloud as we speak. Our CWSUs, they support the FAA at the command centers across this country. They're getting AWIPS in the cloud. We're rolling. All these things have deadlines. They all have accountability, and we're transforming. We're making this happen.
And Ken, after sitting on the runway in Las Vegas a couple of Fridays ago during the flash flooding situation, those center weather units are so important to keeping the flow of commerce going in the United States. Now, Mina Shing, I think, is the head of the USDS. And it seems like the Biden administration is really working hard to make that a focus in the government. And if Troy were here tonight, he's not on the show, but he'd say, Ken, how long till we have an app for the National Weather Service? So I'll throw that out there for Troy.
Nobody ever asked that
Yeah,
question.
Never asked that. No, nobody ever.
I get the question all the time. And it's one of these things that, again, we try to do everything and I want to do it right. So, I mean, if you think about how we're doing things, you look at NWS chat, we're partnering with Slack. If you think about what we're doing with the new WCOS2 with the supercomputer, we're partnering with the private sector. You think about how we're doing things differently and partnering with the private sector. We're doing language translation, partnering with a company called Lilt. And in the next 6 years, we're going to translate all the top 12 languages in the United States. We're going to translate those. We got Spanish, we got Chinese done. We're going to work on Samoan, and we're going to work on Vietnamese. We're doing it, right? So we're partnering, doing it differently. What happened to me at the NBA last year, I met a startup company that was talking about an app that they were doing. They had 100 ITOs dedicated to their app. I don't have that. I can't build something that's going to be solid and that I'm going to be able to maintain forever. So the tactic now is, how do we build a new weather.gov light, like a 2.0, and have it app-like? How do we have it, be able to be really light and serve the same thing? I don't want to build anything that I can't maintain. And then all of a sudden it doesn't work and it gives us a bad reputation. I don't have 100 ITs laying around to be able to dedicate to this. So I want to do things right. I want to make sure that they work and make sure that we don't build that Lamborghini, get some small wins out the door. I think I covered it, huh, Michelle?
Yeah. And we don't have scientists, by the way, or meteorologists designing the next weather.gov, right? Because we're not designing it for ourselves. We have that problem. What was it? What was some of the initial feedback? You get a map and then you click on that map and you get another map, and then you click on that map and you get some words, but you still get another map. And it was like when a non-science in Mets kind of described it back to us, like, yeah.
The way that team has described it is the Weather Service page right now is organized by our organizational structure, which makes no sense to most humans. And so it is blessed how they are just, they're taking it all and they're saying, just trust us.
Yeah.
We are going to work with real humans and we're going to present you with what they need out of all of this. And they are so good. They are so good.
The best way to look at this is when you build a website for the public, you can't build it for yourself. There's an intranet for that.
Yes.
Right. Right. You can build an
That's right.
intranet for yourself. If you're going to do an internet, interstate, cross, out, interesting. Right. So it's for the public. So you got to understand what the public needs and what the emergency managers need and be able to do that and buy matching shirts like Michelle and I have. We have matching shirts, ladies and gentlemen. We are so in this together that we have matching shirts.
Together.
And Kim, did you want to ask another question?
I was going to say,
Michelle
you
or-
started talking about the Ken's 10 and you rolled through a couple of things, but there's more, right?
There's a lot more. There's something called a spot formatter where emergency managers can actually request on the website for a latitude longitude forecast. It could be a law enforcement event. It could be an oil spill. It could be a collision, explosion, whatever it is. And it's rough. It doesn't work very well. So we're redoing that. We're going to have that done in 2024, if I remember correctly. So we're making it happen. You think about I talked about the tsunami warning centers. That's a big deal. They're wonderful. And anybody watching from the centers, you're amazing. I visited Hawaii and Alaska. I got to meet them. They're so dedicated, but they grew up separately. One's on Windows, one's on Linux. We really grew up separately. So we're bringing them together. We're going to bring them under the same chain of command. And we're actually going to look at a similar website. We're getting them on AWIPS, super exciting. And we're going to have them completely unified where they can back each other up and actually be very similar over the next couple of years. So there's a big things like that. AWIPS in the cloud is a big deal. Think about being able to do our job anywhere, Rick. I mean, think about everything you can do in the office, you can do anywhere. Emergency operations centers, home, front lines, portable command center, mobile home, anywhere you want to. You think about a command center like that in an RV. I mean, you could just, the list goes on with that type of thing. Probabilistic. We got a whole team dedicated to probabilistic information, warn on forecast, polygons for everything. We that's rolling and huge briefing, big success on the situation that they're doing there. Flood inundation mapping, 10% of the country's done. You all ready for that? Everybody ready for that? James, you ready for that? Flood inundation mapping, 10% of the country done, 30% coming in 24, 25, 60%, and 100% of this country done in 26. Think about that. A flood inundation map ahead of time. Like 2 days from now, it's like, I look at the amount of rainfall. Here's what's going to flood 2 days from now to the detail. Folks, that's coming. That's game changing. Think about that. No.
Hey, Ken, Neil's got some questions for you. Neil, hop on in. Go.
Yeah, well, so it's great to see you, Kim, Michelle. This is music to my ears. You have no idea how awesome all this is. It's so great. I'm ecstatic about AWIPS in the cloud, and I was going to ask, like, for the listeners, like, explain to them, like, that capability. What's the difference between how it used to be done with, workstations in the office versus the potential now, and how that can help the actual workforce better execute their job?
Both of us are so
We
excited.
start, where do you want to go?
Think about being limited to the office, so you do your job, but the decision makers aren't in that office. So the decision makers are somewhere else. Or your emergency operations centers, they could be emergency managers, they could be elected officials and that sort of thing. So what this does, it cuts the cord. Like literally, our employees at the Weather Service can do their job anywhere, everything, all the capability, all the data, the product generation, the sending of the products that they do in the office, they could do anywhere. And that means emergency operations centers. That means the front lines. That means home. Remember I said the next generation. They are absolutely demanding more flexibility. They're demanding balance between work and home. They're not going to work at the National Weather Service. Remember I said we could do anything. I can attract people all the time. I can hire like crazy. They don't stay. So Neil, this is a way to be able to do the job anywhere. And I think that's an absolute game changer. Think about a National Weather Service that instead is at 150 locations. Think of us as 1,000 locations, 1,500 locations, right there with the decision makers. And I can tell you, they need us more than ever. They're flooded with information. They got social media coming at them in every different direction. They don't know what to believe. Is that official? Is that not official? I don't know what's going on here. They need help in being able to make those tough decisions. I've seen it hurricane after hurricane. I saw it in the atmospheric rivers in California. I saw it in the blizzards in Buffalo over and over and over. I see they need our help translating this information because these decisions are tough. They're not scientists. Why in the world will we look at non-scientists to make these tough decisions, decipher all this through the scientific information and figure it out to make a career move on big decisions, right? Job on the line. Take that in. Job on the line. Lives on the line, right? All that's on the line. They need help interpreting this information. So if we look at machine learning, Neil, you and I have talked about it, machine learning and AI, as the models get better, right? And you start getting that into the models. You look at Epic, you look at everybody in this community modeling, it's going to be tougher and tougher to beat the models. The role of the meteorologist is going to change. It's going to be risk analysis. It's going to be really interpreting this information on the front lines to get the decisions that we need. It's the risk perception has to equal risk reality. That's what the job's going to be. As soon as you get risk reality, you get the decisions that save people's lives. It's game changing. It's transformative for this agency, Neil.
And with it, you don't get an office that goes out dark. Like, so if you have comms that go down.
That's another thing I was going to say.
Yeah, you go to, service level backups to another neighboring office. When that happens, some of those delivery services, your no weather radio, everything's not working as it should. With this, you get every single no weather radio transmitting. You get a service that's in a cloud-based platform. Think of where we can take that. Think of how you can configure the information or feed in X number of years. I mean, the possibilities are just endless.
Think of the mutual aid.
Yeah.
So think about a New York City. Let's take it in. Ready? Neil, I want to take everyone through a scenario. Take a New York City and Hurricane Ida. Where should they be? They should be with the decision makers. So if we have ABOS in the cloud to do mutual aid, we could have, it's amazing. Listen, you have a big event in our agency, Norman, big event. We're watching you. You guys are so busy. You can't do the job and be with every emergency manager. You know what the rest of us are doing? We're looking at our radar app, eating popcorn going, whoa. Look at that storm. That's a big hook. Okay. No, this is absolutely completely real. No, it's real. So what happens is we need to help you out. We need to help New York out to get them out with the decision makers. So you got mutual aid to be able to do that. It's going to be ASOS, your observations. It's going to be weather radio. It's going to be the radar all going to the cloud, which eliminates some of those vulnerabilities, right? You don't have a donkey kicking a pole in Pascagoula, Mississippi and knocking out 4 offices. That's the vulnerability with some of this stuff.
Happens.
No, it's absolutely real, right? So it eliminates those vulnerabilities. It allows us to provide mutual aid. It gets us out of the office with those emergency managers. Think about weather radio in the cloud. Take it in. Anything you want to talk about? Maybe delivering this via satellite, via internet, all that in the cloud. We could revolutionize getting information to the vulnerable populations in that last mile. We can go after that and be able to get the information to those vulnerable communities. That's what we're going after. We're going after that last mile. That's where people are losing their lives, and we're going after
So
it.
we're kind of pumped, like you can say, just like kind kind of pumped.
I love it. Hey, let me touch on one more thing, and then I'll pass it back. So this innovation office is amazing. What has the reception been like? Because one of the things that I think I see a lot, and it's a little bit different. You don't see this in startup companies like you would in a major government agency, but there's a lot of risk aversion in big government agencies because there's a tremendous amount of downside for failure with not a lot of upside. So how do you incentivize that? Like this idea of an award is super cool, but beyond that, from the governance structure and stuff, how do you get, who's going to take like the first leap and take a real risk and be like, all right, I'll volunteer to be number one to face plant and see what happens? Because to me, if you can get people excited about taking risks and not afraid to fail, you're going to see innovation accelerate like you can't imagine.
Most of the big things that have happened in this agency have come from the field.
Yep. Yeah.
A lot of the big projects have been fixed or tweaked or made work from the field. So this is a way, you always want to have innovation, but you can't have uncontrolled innovation because we can't afford it. We can't support it, the IT infrastructure, everything else. So what this does is put innovation into this council to say, wait a minute, Rick, you're doing that too. Wait, Michelle, wait a minute. There's 3 people doing this. Can you all get together and figure this out together? So it's a way to be able to focus. That's what Ken's 10's about. Ken's 10's not about capturing every single project in this agency. It's about focus. Right. So this innovation council focus us to be able to do innovation. We had a burnout survey in the weather service. There was a lot of burnout. I wrote every single comment in that burnout survey on my board on the 18th floor in the office in Silver Spring. Come see it. I'll show you. It's in orange. And some of it was everything from hiring. It was and too many surveys. The survey came back with there's too many surveys. Take that one in. Okay, that really happened. So, but the other one was we want to be included. We want to innovate. So what happens is when there's so much chaos and innovation, what happens is you try to stop it all because you can't maintain it. And that's no good for morale. People want to innovate. So how do you capture the energy of this incredible, dedicated, passionate, wanted to do this since 5 agency to be able to innovate, but then be able to put that in a place to really support that in budget wise. And then you can say, here are the priorities of the weather service, and every dollar, listen, we're looking at every dollar in the weather service to make sure it goes towards this transformation, right? You can't not, even in tight budget times, you can't stop innovating because you won't survive. Eventually you won't be indispensable. So you have to be able to do this transformation, mission and mission support. Every dollar has to go to those key things. Focus, focus, focus. We got to stop trying to do everything.
That's right. And it's not a National Weather Service Headquarter Innovation Council. It's a National Weather Service Council. So there's individuals from the regions, from the field. So you get the voices. Everybody's part of the solution of where we're going to go to the future.
So we're doing it, Neil. We're making it happen. And this is going to happen. We will transform. I'm as confident as anything I've ever been in my life. We're going to transform this agency.
I'm cheering from the cheap seats. It's an awesome thing to see.
It's pretty cool. What did you start as a GS? 5? I started as a GS4. Yeah. So
at the helm of this agency are 2 operational people. At the helm of this agency, I was a paying union member when I was an intern and a journey forecast. At the helm of this agency are people that can know operations, understand operations. And we look at the workforce and we look at them right now. I'm looking at you all that are watching right now. Yep. And Michelle and I, we're one of you, and we're going to make this happen, and we're going to need a lot of help. Yep.
It's exciting.
Now, Kim, you get ready to ask one last thing. I think Jamie Morrow's appeared at the door twice, flashing numbers. I don't know what they meant, but I think that meant you have somewhere to go. And then they play closing time over the music system. So y'all may be getting you may have to get an Uber back to the hotel, but I think Jamie's already left. But Kim, you go ahead.
Oh, I just want to add a quick reflection for what you said. So much of what we're not capitalizing on is that in the field every day, they are innovating, whether it's formal or not. And as a social scientist who's recently joined you all, I see my purpose as being to help capture what is succeeding and what's not. So often it's just tough to get that feedback. And then we can do the exact same thing, bring up the stuff that's working, but actually identify it with you. So that innovation piece driven from the ground up, that, I mean, I think that that's just going to work.
It fires the agency,
It
right?
fires the agency.
When I felt like at times in my career that I had an idea and I couldn't get anywhere. If I couldn't get it past my MIC, it didn't go anywhere. If I got it there and I couldn't get it through the region, it didn't go anywhere. And then I always felt like everybody was there to stop things, right? And so how do we build an agency that fosters an environment that you're encouraged to innovate, but do it together so we can actually support it? That changes everything, right? So the best ideas become reality. You got a morale boost, right? Your burnout lowers because everybody's inclusive environment. That's really what you need. That's what we're trying to build. If you don't do that, see, this is what happens. If you build bureaucracy around your previous success, you fail. You eventually die. That's what happens. You could name all sorts of companies, agencies that have become really obsolete, right? That's what you have to avoid. You have to be able to reduce that bureaucracy, encourage that development, and let people go. You know what my job is? Point the direction and get out of their way. That's really what it is. That's my job. And that's what we're going to try to do.
And this is the point where most Weather Service employees want to run through a wall and just go, because I mean, how inspiring is that? That's awesome. We have never had that before, and it's just so exciting. We appreciate y'all.
I think
what
the
you're
Weather
doing.
Service will be at the top of those place to work lists very shortly. And we appreciate that because that's so critical. Director, thank you for being here. Michelle, thank you so much. So nice to have you both tonight. Not crashing at all. You're always a big part of what we do. And we appreciate you guys so much. So y'all go enjoy the rest of the evening. And James, anything you wanted to say, James Spann, before to Ken and Michelle?
No, I'm so excited right now. I'm ready to go crash through a wall and get started. Let's go. I mean, this is great. I mean, and listen, what you're doing, it's contagious. I hope you understand that. The passion and the energy and the freedom that you're giving people to innovate, it's across the entire weather enterprise. So thank you.
And we do it for you, James. I mean, and we do it for the emergency managers. We do it for the media. We can't do it without you. If you think about the partnership, everybody looking at this today, listening to this, we do it for you all. We are all on one page. We're all trying to save lives, and we're not going to rest till we get it done. So you got my commitment. I'm going to work as hard as I can to make sure this becomes reality, sir. Yep.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah, Jamie Mora, we have not done a good job helping you here, but with 10 principals, there's not much else we could do. It's good to have you. Can you poke your head in for a second? Oh, they don't care. They told me we could stay. Tell her put it all on the WeatherBrains tab. James, it's going to be on the credit card. Okay.
Okay.
We're going to pay the staff to stay a couple of extra.
No problem. No problem.
And I know that you got another star in the weather enterprise with you, James A. Let's toss it over to you at the broadcasters dinner to introduce a special guest.
Yeah, this is meteorologist Todd Jacobian. And just to set up talking to Todd, one of the things I do and one of the things I encourage meteorologists to do around the country is watch the severe weather coverage as other stations are dealing with tornadoes or flash floods or any kind of weather like that. So last March 31st, there was a killer tornado in Little Rock, central parts of Arkansas. It also was strong enough to force and close enough to the National Weather Service office there that they evacuated and turned over the warning process to their backup offices. So this was a bad hit in Little Rock. And the guy on the air at KATV joins me right now. And Todd Jacobian, walk us through that day because your work was masterful.
Well, it was because of people like you. During that coverage, I was getting text messages from you in Tulsa helping me analyze radar. And that's something we need to do more of in the business, is that we have a radar buddy. I think that's what you called it, a radar buddy, because there are so many different things happening at that moment that we may miss something, whether it's a producer yelling at us, a reporter out in the field, something going on in the studio. It's so wonderful to have somebody out there in another market somewhere watching it. And thank you, James, for doing that. That day, obviously, we knew something big was going to happen, not only that day, but days leading up to it. We just didn't know exactly where. But it was about 11:30 that morning, and I said a text to our news director, this is all hands on deck today. And about 2:20, that tornado came through Little Rock. I think it's 2:20 in the afternoon. And it came, we had Brett A there with live video on the air of that tornado. And it we're covering it, and I saw where it was going, and Little Rock's my home. I was born and raised there, and I thought this is going to hit close to my family. And then at about 3:30, I got a text from my sister, and all it said was, "Mom's house destroyed." She had passed away a month prior, but then the tornado hit. And that was another huge thing to overcome. There's nothing I can do about that house, but I could still help people out. And it was tough to stay on the air, but you do. You stay on the air and you get the job done.
How did you stay calm, stay relevant? I mean, your coverage was masterful with a lot of things going on too. As you talked about, you had moved into a new building, so there are those kind of wrinkles to iron out too. How did you stay focused on what you're doing and do it so well?
I still don't know that I still don't think I didn't feel good about it. I still to this day, because we had just moved to a new building, we had switched to automation in the new building, and so we were still getting used to that at the same time. And it was heading right for our building. It missed us by half a mile. I don't know how I did what I did, but you're in those situations and you just go. And you look back at it and you say, how the heck did I do that? And you just do. And you analyze it later, but you just do. But thanks. I appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you.
Now, you're also kind of in between a few phases too. And you're going to work tomorrow, Wednesday, right? Where are you going to go to work? By the way, if you want to Twitter search or X search Todd Jacobian and Arkansas TV, that is quite the fun on Twitter. So you want to answer the question that you've been getting 1,000 times?
Well, I can't, James. All I can say is that I have had the best advice from the best people in the business. And I'm looking at one person on screen right now. That was one of those guys. And he's better than, he just knows everything about weather and the business, meteorology, and the friends that have guided me through this. I will never be able to thank them enough, but I'm not leaving Little Rock, period. That is my home. That's where I'm going to retire, and I will not leave Little Rock. All right, is that enough? Or you want more?
Go on. Any pyramids, water slides, anything like that? Your NWA. Best part about this conference, besides people asking you where you're going to be working?
Yeah, my lawyer's saying shut up right now. No, seriously. The best part of this conference, I think, was yesterday morning. SBC, that I was in the severe weather group discussion about changing the risk categories, because while we understand them, meteorologists understand them, a lot of us use them on the air, and we use them in different ways on the air, whether there's levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, slight, marginal, slight, enhanced, moderate, and etc. While we understand it, our viewers don't quite understand it after 10 years. And if after 10 years you don't get it, you got to start making changes. And I'm very happy to be involved with that. I also learned in this conference that when you're doing voice to text with James anywhere around, don't do it. That's all I have to say. That's it.
So I'm trying to figure out what song is going on back there. Friends
Oh,
in low
well,
places.
Yeah.
So, and that's part of the problem we've got. I thought a cat had gotten its tail caught in the door. There was some terrible screeching and caterwauling and carrying on. No, it's karaoke for broadcast meteorologists, and there's a reason that we speak and don't sing. And boy, is it apparent. I'm gonna head for the earplugs real soon. Are you gonna do some karaoke?
I have done Ice Ice Baby. Not here, back home. But isn't there an honor system that nothing that gets done here goes on social media? There's an honor system, I think. So I'll do it if there are no phones involved.
In this day and age of phones and voice to text, Janice Bunning back there. sneaking into the shot. So yeah, it's been a great time. I'm not sure how much longer though with this karaoke going on that this is going to be tolerable for anyone here though. So
all right,
James,
Bill Murray.
did you have? I was going to ask if you did some karaoke.
I did a rendition of Freebird one time. We'll just leave it at that. So, Bill Murray, let's go back to you guys real quick and over at the. Have y'all shut the party down over there yet?
They did.
I think they cut their feed.
They did. They got kicked out of the bar.
Wow, they're done.
They
Okay. Goodness gracious. All right. So James A. and Todd, you guys are the last two standing in this whole thing here. But I one point that I want to drive home is the fact that you need to watch other people in other markets to doing severe weather and tornado coverage, and watching both of these guys. And I'm not trying to pump sunshine up their skirt here, but they're darn good at what they do. They care, they understand their market, and it's very refreshing to watch them. So wherever Todd happens to land, find him and watch him, and the same thing for James A. So you guys just both do a great job and understand that we can always get better, but you guys are really good. So both of you guys. And now they've hung up on us.
No, and I stress that to people all the time. If one of the ways you get better at your job in a vocation, and it's pretty much every vocation, is to watch people that do this really well and watch them perform that craft. And while the book knowledge of meteorology and radar and severe weather is so critically important, what we do to communicate this information in a relevant and clear manner is just as important. And I always urge people of all ages to stay plugged in and learn by watching other people do their work. And Todd is phenomenal. Ryan is great at it. Brian Busby is phenomenal. So all these people I've been dragging up here are so good at severe weather coverage. So just everybody professionally that's in broadcasting, I remind them, just kind of stay tuned to the weather outside your viewing area. And when severe weather is hitting other markets, that's the magic of how good we are with technology and internet. Most of these stations are streaming, and it's such a great opportunity to, what I call, go learn from some of the masters.
Now, how long are you going to be staying at Kansas City, James?
I will be leaving after the awards banquet on Wednesday, heading back to Tulsa, back to work on Thursday. So I actually flew myself in, which was kind of fun. That's one of the things that's neat about when it gets close enough that able to do that. And this city is fantastic. What a Kansas City's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a good. It is a great market, and I've not been to Kansas City since the time when CELS was in operation there. And you don't even know. Nobody on this show is old enough to know what CELS is, but that is the precursor to the Storm Prediction Center, and they used to be in the Federal Building in Kansas City.
And that Federal Building is still here, and there are old pictures, I believe, with the WSR 57 on top of that. Of course, that's the first thing I looked at. I saw, there's the old Federal Building, but the radar's long gone.
But because goodness, I remember walking in there, and all they had this communication room and all these teletype machines. They must have had 24 teletype machines, and there was something really sexy about those teletype machines, man. And boy, those bells would be going off, and it was a different world back then. But
and a lot of men in short sleeve dress shirts, skinny ties, and smoking at work.
Yeah, and Bob Johns was back there. Bob went on to work for SPC for a long time, and then you had Fred Osby was the director of sales back in those days. But it was just a different world. But James A., we're going to let you go because have you had anything to eat yet in this fancy BRGP restaurant, whatever?
I had a couple of sliders. If you watched closely before I had popped a light on, you could see me stuffing my face, which is kind of embarrassing. But I was hungry.
Okay. And do we know where the NWA will be next year by any chance?
We do not have dates, nor do we have a location, but I'm sure they are talking. And I'm not sure in the rotation if it's going west, because it was in Pittsburgh last year. So it would it would make sense that we're going west because it's not been since Anaheim, I believe, that we've gone west of the Rockies.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll have a full staff and all of us can be there. Jen, you need to go next year. All right,
I need to work on that. Yeah, I'll work on that.
Make plans on that, and Neil
Yeah.
needs to come back. But James A, we'll let you go. Thanks a lot. Great coverage, great guest. It was a fun night tonight. You be
Absolutely.
safe and
Will
keep
do.
your pants on. Okay.
All right. Oh, my
That's our
yeah.
that's our working show title for tonight. So we got to take a quick break. We're going to hit Tony Rice, and then we're going to get Jen's this week in tornado history, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the tropics with Neil and Jen. We'll do picks of the week and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
Recently discovered comet C2023P1 is faintly visible in the pre-dawn sky, but not for much longer. It's been brightening in recent weeks and may be visible under dark skies early this week. Look low on the western horizon before dawn for what looks like a white smudge. What you're looking at is gases and dust being ejected from the comet as it draws closer to the sun. And it's not that bright, around magnitude 4.5, and that's dimmer than most suburban observers will be able to see, but it might be within reach of more rural locations. Comets get brighter as they draw closer to the sun. They're also more difficult to see in the light of dawn or dusk. The trick is finding that sweet spot, and we're likely at the end of that sweet spot. Elsewhere in the sky, the FAA has completed its investigation into the April 20th failed launch attempt of Starship aboard its Super Heavy booster from SpaceX's test site in Boca Chica, Texas. The booster lost several engines during ascent and began tumbling. It was ultimately destroyed remotely about 4 minutes after liftoff. The FAA's report will not be released publicly because of export restrictions and the SpaceX proprietary information that it contains. But the agency did say in a September 8th statement that multiple root causes led to the mishap. That statement also pointed to several corrective actions that must be completed before the next launch attempt. On the engineering side, this includes redesign of vehicle hardware to prevent leaks and fires, as well as a redesign of the launch pad. The FAA also called for additional analysis and testing of safety systems. On the management side, the FAA called for additional reviews of the design process. That's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
This week in tornado history, we look at one of the tornadoes produced by the outer rain bands of major Hurricane Carla in September of 1961. Carla began as a tropical depression in the southwestern Caribbean Sea on September 3rd. It moved near the coast of Honduras, skirted the Yucatan Peninsula, and became a major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. The winds increased to around 175 miles per hour early on the morning of September 11th, making Carla a Category 5 storm. It weakened slightly as it made a loop off the Texas coast near Port O'Connor, and Carla made a landfall on the afternoon of the 11th on the northeastern part of Matagorda Island as a strong Category 4 hurricane. A total of 18 tornadoes were associated with Carla. 10 were in Louisiana, and 5 of those actually hit on September 10th. The strongest on that day was rated F3. It had a path of 5.7 miles and began 2 miles southeast of Kaplan in Vermilion Parish. The tornado caused damage through 27 blocks of the town. 21 homes were destroyed and 55 were heavily damaged. Tragically, a 4-week-old baby girl was killed in her home. 55 people were injured along the tornado's path. We have a summary about this event at tornadotalk.com. We also look at 3 other significant tornadoes that hit parts of Texas, all produced by Hurricane Carla, one that hit the Channelview area and 2 others that hit Galveston.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
So we're doing the show on Monday, 9/11, and let's just, Neil, let's start with the tropics. You got one that's going to be passing a little east of you. What are your thoughts on Hurricane Lee?
I thought the models did a great job with it. I mean, they had that hook pegged for almost a week. Pretty close to the perfect on the longitude. And the discussion of New England and Nova Scotia, Newfoundland being, should keep their eyes out was always in the mix too. And it still is. The latest run of the Euro kind of makes it do like this little weird left hook there for a second, just in like a, span of a few hours. But it's just such a large storm, that even that, people shouldn't focus on the center of the track, because they're going to get a heck of a nor'easter type conditions no matter what at this point.
Yeah, it seems like with the wind radius increasing, you're going to have just a nasty nor'easter kind of thing for Cape Cod and Boston. And goodness, we were in Nantucket earlier this year, and I can imagine what they're going to experience. But if you would kind of give us a little quick briefing on this hurricane analysis forecast system, this HAFS A and B. What's the difference between A and B?
I mean, there's a lot of different differences. They're testing two different systems, and they have if you go look at the plots, there'll be like there's a high res grid that kind of follows the model around, and then there's what they call like the parent domain, which is it feeds what are called lateral boundary conditions to the higher res grid, and that's more of like your traditional grid that you're used to. And the testing over the last couple of years, as this thing got operationalized, it was great. I mean, it was outperforming all the usual, HWRF and HMON, but the decision was made just not to turn those off, just so we can have like one full season where you have access to all the models and you can look at them. But the half system, as we call it, is doing a great job. And, I'd be surprised if they don't sunset the HWRF and the HMON next year and just go straight with the halves.
I will say, goodness, it has performed very well. And so they are clearly on. Were you involved in the development of that at all?
Yeah. So that's stuff I'm actually still working on that stuff. So as part of the unified forecast system, the HAFS model is one of the applications that we have. So, we've got tropics, we've got the medium range, the short range, which is the rapid refresh forecast system. So it's all basically taking what used to be run as all these different one-off models with different types of computer code on different hardware, and just making them models with physics and dynamics to target different type of weather patterns, but they all use the same underlying code, and they run on different, you can configure it to run on any kind of architecture. So from a software management perspective, it's a lot cleaner to do it that way than it is to support all these different one-offs. So that's why we call it the unified forecast system.
There you go. Well, let's go to Jen. Jen, we talking tropics here. What's up? We got some cold air coming down the pike. We're going to feel it down here in a few days.
Yeah, we've got some highs up here in the 60s with this front coming in. And speaking of Cape Cod, I actually have a radio station in Cape Cod. So I've got my eyes on Lee, trying to message that in a short forecast is very difficult, but just trying to give the heads up on the wave action and the rip currents and just to kind of see how the track goes. But then, we've got the front coming in, and it was a little cool this weekend here. We was definitely feeling like football, which of course got my Penn State hat on again because we had a big win. I loved it. But of course we were playing Delaware, but I'll take it. But yeah, it was a great game this weekend. And this is my favorite time of year. You get you get warm, and then you get the nice cool fronts that come through. And then, come November, it gets just really cold. So
I got to tell you, I had a close call Saturday night. So, I do weather support for the University of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I really do it for two entities. I do it for Crimson Tide Sports Marketing. That's the money-making branch. And then I do it for the athletic department. That's Coach Saban, the coaches. And, you don't want to miss anything, but this was a pretty big game. Alabama played Texas, which was a top 10 battle in Tuscaloosa, over 100,000 people. It was just a big deal. And all week long, we basically built a gorgeous evening, beautiful, clear, temperatures falling into the 70s. It's going to be amazingly comfortable. No chance of rain, marvelous. Let me tell you what, we had an illegal shower that popped up 6 miles away from that stadium during the game, first quarter. And I was sweating bullets because if you follow college football, it was not going especially well for Alabama here. They lost the game. But if it would have started raining in that stadium, I would have moved to Mexico or maybe Australia for 22 years. But man, that was close. Goodness gracious. We had a little surface low that was over Georgia, and there was some retrogression going on here, and it backed a little farther than we thought it would. So, but anyway, but other than that, I think Troy is going to get some relief in Texas. And Troy couldn't be on the show tonight, but aren't they, Jen or Neil? Don't you see a break in their heat?
Yeah, there is, and especially north of him, but I think they do get it down there too. I was looking, I do some forecasting out toward the hill country, and they get a little bit more of an uptick in some rain chances, and with the cloud cover, and they'll get some cooler air in there too. So it's much better than it has been. I can't wait to hear. He's probably going to be doing cartwheels on the next show because he's going to be so excited. They actually got some relief. It's been so awful there.
Oh, it's been horrible, just horrible. But before we go to picks of the week, when I go back to the tropics, Neil, one more time, just your thoughts on the rest of the season. It looks like the wave train, they just are tending to recurve into the westerlies, near or just east of the East Coast. What are your thoughts on the rest of the season?
I think it'll probably be more of the same. I mean, there's enough heat energy in, coming off of Africa to spin these things up, but they either encounter shear and get blown apart, or they make it past the point of the shear and they can get strong enough at that point to almost create their own outflow and get rid of the shear. And then they run into the recurve issue, because just due to the nature of Coriolis, the stronger the storm is, the more it's going to want to pull north. And so anytime you really need like a really strong ridge to drive it continuously west. So anytime you just have a break in that ridge and the storm's real strong, it's just going to swing north. And I think that's what you're seeing. I know with Lee, with Margot, there's another one coming off Africa now that a lot of the models are developing into a storm, and it takes almost the exact same track as Lee did, according to the last couple of runs.
And at some point, upwelling should come into play here with
Yeah, it will. I mean, it's interesting. Like a lot of times with these storms, if they follow the same track, and there's not enough span in between the two storms, the second one really struggles because the first one sucked a lot of the heat out of the water and mixed it up. And you don't often see that like in the loop current or over the Gulf Stream because the water's replenished so quick, but east of the Gulf Stream out over the Atlantic, you'll see these tracks. It almost looks like a contrail of where the storm went, of just cooler water.
And I got one private direct message on X or Twitter, whatever, here from a guy in Galveston. What does Neil think about the Gulf? And it's a selfish personal question, Galveston, for the rest of the season.
I mean, probably the same. You could always have a storm spin up. That would be my concern. Would probably be storms spinning up pretty close to the coast there. But I don't really think once you get later in the season, the focus really tends to be more waves coming off of Africa. And because of the upper level pattern, like I said, you would have to have a ridge really strong and a really low latitude storm, to basically almost make it underneath Cuba to get into the Gulf. Otherwise, they're just going to want to keep recurving.
Yeah.
But, it could certainly happen.
Yeah, any of these little backyard systems can spin up. These fronts get in there and they die, and sometimes things happen. But yeah, and hopefully we'll make it through without a major problem for the Gulf. But as we always say, hurricane season runs to the end of November, and you can have a late season system too. So just don't, let down on your guard. All right, let's shift it to picks of the week. And again, I will just say that I don't know if, and Jen and Neil, if you've been paying attention to what's going on tonight in New England. Have you seen the flooding issues up there? We have had a flash flood emergency for some of the areas. This is well to the west of Boston. It looks like, based on radar, over 10 inches of rain. We have a flash flood emergency for some of the folks up and through there. So they've had some really nasty flooding. But again, we have Monday Night Football on our channel on ABC tonight, and they're playing in New York. And I think they started on time. There was a big thunderstorm cluster that came through about an hour before kickoff. But a photographer took them an amazing shot tonight of Manhattan. And they had the tribute in light, where the Twin Towers used to be, because this is the 9/11 anniversary. And then this amazing lightning shot streaking through the sky with this low cloud cover. It's just an amazing photograph. So that will be my pick of the week, is what it looked like in Manhattan tonight here on 9/11 with a pretty big thunderstorm cluster coming through. All right, Jen, give us something good. Give us your pick of the week.
So we have a couple of news summaries on the website, but the latest is from our main writer, Zach Reichel, and he wrote on the Granbury, Texas tornado that occurred May 15th, 2013. And it only went 2.5 miles. It was devastating, though. It hit the Rancho Brazos Estates. 6 people were killed. And he just did a really great job at honoring their lives and telling the story. So I wanted to share that and have folks read that. He's turned out to be a wonderful writer. I'm really proud of his work. And this is another great entry from him.
Awesome. And again, we'll put the links up on weatherbrains.com. Neil, give us something good.
So my pick of the week is the National Data Buoy Center's website. If you go there, they've got a little tagline at the top that says, view the latest observations from the storms. And so they aggregate the buoys nearest to where the storm is and what falls inside of the trajectory of the cone. And you can go in there, and it's pretty cool if you can go in and click the plots of like wind and waves and stuff and just see the storm approaching. And if you're lucky enough to have one go over a buoy and the buoy's still reporting data, you can actually see the pressure just bottom out and come back up, while at the same time the winds are going up and then they go down. And if there's an eye, it's even cooler because it goes calm in the eye, and it's a pretty cool website.
Yeah, that's fascinating stuff. And again, we'll link this up on weatherbrains.com. So I hope our folks come back safely. I'm still trying to figure out that moon story, the moon, the pool story. With that was the lead story coming out of these guys. So that was.
I thought they were gonna like somehow not lose their pants or get arrested, or I was waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know where any of this stuff was going here, and of course, we're on broadcast television here, so I'm having to kind of keep my finger because I don't know where this was going, but we made it, so it was good. But again, we hope they have a safe travel back. If you are new here, we are typically on the air Monday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, and you can watch it live on youtube.com/weatherbrains. But we know that most of you listen, which is great. And those audio podcasts typically are released early every Tuesday morning. But if you want to get in touch with us, maybe you heard something you're interested in or have a question, just send us an email. And I promise we'll do a longer email segment next week. The email address, it is email@weatherbrains.com. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week and God bless. I thought Ken was just great tonight. Ken Graham, wasn't he?
So wonderful.
He's on a roll. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
it is contagious. And I've seen it work the other way, where you get just chronic negativity, but with that positive attitude and the passion that he has, I just see good things happen.